But why, some say, the moon? Why choose this as our goal? And they may well ask, why climb the highest mountain? Why, 35 years ago, fly the Atlantic? We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other thing. Not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. We choose to go to the moon.
All right, Super Happy Dragon Lucky, episode 0x39, the 58th episode. Welcome, everybody. How's it going, Rocco?
Going great. How are you doing tonight, Joe?
I'm all right. There's been a lot of stuff in the air from forest fires up here, so it's weird. Last night was really crazy. Okay, so first thing we're gonna hit. We just published an article on automotive use case, in particular for connected automotive. I mean, it's really interesting. It's really in depth. There's a lot of info in particular about how it can be used. That is the technology itself, blockchain, and it's especially used at scale. A lot of the things that even aren't mentioned are similar to some of the early stuff that we looked at with the architecture on connectivity versus disconnected devices, things like this. But there's a lot of really good info in there. I would suggest everybody go out and read it. Let us know what you think about it, if you have any ideas around it, and anything that it might spawn for other ideas. The other article that just went out recently was on compliance, and I've been talking about this for quite a while. It's somewhat a boring subject, but it's valuable nonetheless. Very much about applying blockchain to prove that your company or that you or your project is following whatever the policy is. And a lot of it's about liabilities, but a lot of it's about transparency. If you apply this to GDPR as an example, it's something that would be and should be a remarkable differentiator of the technology compared to traditional ways of doing it. That, as it is now, you have to follow these rules, GDPR, CCPA, but there's no real way for me to know that you're following those rules. And on top of the fact, there's no way for you, as let's say a director of a group inside of a company, to know that you aren't messing up, until it's too late. And with this, the beauty is you can selectively expose certain bit of information, and most importantly, even though some of the transactions will be mundane data, that the people who care about that data can actually verify it and see the proof that a certain action occurred at a certain time, when it was requested, when it was required, whatever else, right? And there's a lot of really interesting applications here. You can think a lot of it would be fintech. You can think privacy. Fintech is a huge one. All the banking regulations, just to know that your company is doing everything it's supposed to be doing in advance of any issues. So, really cool stuff. Another really in-depth article, a bunch of info. And we pointed to a bunch of things that we've already implemented, some things that are rolling out as we speak, so on. So anyway, check those out. And we don't know if it'll be next week. I'm hoping it is next week, but it kind of depends. We're going to do another quick take session on scaling and fees. And in particular, you can imagine everything that had been going on in the past month on Ethereum, in particular with DeFi, and just it became very obvious to everyone that way beyond CryptoKitties, that the scaling of Ethereum is and every blockchain is really important. And we have some particular thoughts and implementations about that very subject. So we're gonna do at least a quick description of those things and try to itemize them and put them in a frame them in a way that everyone can understand. So I think that's everything.
Look forward to that.
That'll be cool. So
Awesome.
so we're gonna be right back with our guests. And just stick around and we'll have a couple of things cool coming up after that.
While nuclear weapons states can exert unlimited violence over even millions of individuals, strong cryptography means that a state, even by exercising unlimited violence, cannot violate the intent of individuals to keep secrets from them. Cryptography is the ultimate form of non-violent direct action.
All right. So today we have Greg Lang from Open Relay, and at some point he hopefully will be here soon. We might have Ross Davis from Global Crypto Press Association. If not, maybe in a following week. But either way, how's it going, Greg?
Glad to be here, Joe. I'm doing very well.
Good deal.
Yep.
Good deal.
So, good day to be in blockchain. So.
Yes. So what day is it?
Yeah, good question. I think it's a Tuesday, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. So tell us a little bit about yourself and Open Relay.
Okay. So I'm Greg Lang. I'm the CXO of Open Relay, which if you look closely at most of the places I'm titled, that X is lowercase for a reason. So I'm the guy who, my background's in law. I got into blockchain because my co-founder Austin was really into it and really interested in it. We were both open source fanatics, and we wanted to build something together because we'd worked together in the past. And as it turns out, the Ethereum white paper materialized right around the time we were looking for a project, and we said to ourselves, okay, if this ever becomes something, let's do something with it. And it did, obviously. And so we started off with basically building the infrastructure to power a 0x relayer, which for folks who don't know is the order book that powers an exchange, is the place where all the orders are listed, delisted, curated, so that we make sure that stuff that people are seeing in their displays are actually orders that can be filled. And that was where we started. And right around the time the SEC got tough on exchanges, was about the time we had just finished up our work on something we called the EtherCattle initiative, which is actually open source software to organize and coordinate the operationalization of Ethereum nodes. So what that means is decentralized applications require an Ethereum node to be powered, or if you're building on Dragonchain, a Dragonchain node, or whatever your blockchain is. You've got to have a node powering it, and folks have a hard time running those. They'll be maybe in a project to do with finance, and yet they still have to understand this kind of arcane back-end operation of these nodes and keep them up and running. And folks were just pulling their hair out over it. So we built this open source project, and when we got it all done, the idea was to make it so that we could automate it very easily. And when we got it all done, the whole project had massive throughput compared to what we really needed. So we started selling excess capacity, and that's how we got to Rivet, which is our Ethereum and now Ethereum Classic hosted service for backend APIs to both of those chains.
Nice.
So, yeah.
That was actually when we were open source, and we kept getting people who wanted to play with it, but they some of them even from bigger organizations, but the teams didn't have DevOps. So they would come to us as well, we can't. And so we realized that we needed to build much the same, right? We needed to build something to commercialize it and make it easy for people to turn on. So that's awesome. Yeah. Okay, great. All right. So we're going to go straight into the topics. All right. First is free Assange, right? And so Snowden had pointed to a a Kafkaesque situation that is brewing with, and I've not been able to follow because there's I don't remember what charges have been dropped, what have been added. They keep throwing new charges. There's a lot of really crazy politics being played, but it was interesting. Snowden called this out, and shortly thereafter, Trump retweeted a Glenn Greenwald tweet, and I can't remember what the tweet was about. And anyway, there was some interesting stuff because he changed his display name to Free Assange, and so it looks like Trump retweeted it, Free Assange, which so what do you think about Assange? First of all.
Okay, well, first off, I am and have been a huge supporter of Julian Assange for before the time he was actually officially arrested and imprisoned, which I think you can look at his entire time in the embassy in the UK as an imprisonment. Like, ultimately, his freedom of movement was restricted to just where that building would allow him to go, and he had a little room and couldn't get out and see daylight except for from that little balcony, which you couldn't reasonably stand on all the time. And now he's been it's very Kafkaesque. He's somebody who's done something that exposed people who did not want to be exposed to sunlight. Mm-hmm. And the way that they've argued this is not he's not a journalist is just nonsense. Like, journalists especially in the United States are not some kind of protected class. It's journalism that's the protected act, and what he was doing was clearly journalism.
Right.
So
and you've had New York Times that have released top secret info before. Nobody held wherever. Same in other countries in Europe. And I did follow the early bits of the case, and even the original setup is so obvious what happened, where it was the original, in my opinion, the original charges were totally set up by nation states. It was crazy. So anyway, I'm hopeful. I actually hope, even if he's extradited, that he'll be and the weirdest thing is we have charges against him, but there are other nations also that have, I don't even know anymore, right? But I think it's beyond a pardon. I think if we were to offer sanctuary would be the more appropriate term, right? If you say, okay, we're going to pardon you in the U.S. and give you sanctuary, I don't know, right? I mean, what happened in 2016, you would think that would be on the, in the political reality. So anyway, okay.
I mean, he just made a bunch of people look stupid that aren't used to being made look stupid, and revealed. I don't know if you remember the video that was really the big part of that, but revealed some pretty awful stuff that the U.S. military was doing in Iraq. I mean, horrendous. I mean, the public needed to know about that. Yeah. So I don't think we should be doing anything other than honoring him as a hero.
I agree. And by the way, he's the other bit about it is he's not politically. It's not. How do I say it's both sides. It's all about transparency, and so that's the beauty of it, in my opinion. He doesn't, doesn't matter if you're right or left, Republican, Democrat, or whatever other form. If it's a country doing something that they shouldn't be doing, it should be exposed, and it's really powerful stuff. And I think half of what we're doing in crypto should be focused on that subject. The anti-censorship. It's not just about money; it's about information too. So anyway,
right.
Cool. And so we do have a merch code to give out for free merch based upon that ad that was there earlier. And it is SHDL-free-Assange, one shirt, whoever gets it first. Anyway, so that's there. Let's see here. What else do we have? Okay. Leading to Facebook and censorship in elections. I don't know if you've watched this clip, but it is odd. It was basically, and I don't know who it was. I guess it was HBO. So one way or another, Zuckerberg's talking about how they are going to go out of their way to say, how do I say that the election isn't necessarily improper, even if we don't know for months whether somebody won or not. And it's just an odd thing because I mean I understand them if they were really just a platform and they say, look, you know, everything goes except for legal stuff and or here are the rules. It was like even if you said, you know, in our you know, discussion groups on Telegram, we have very explicit, long-standing rules on FUD and language, and you know, we require that you use an Oxford comma and things like that. And you know, but with Facebook, it's very politically charged. So, and what do you think? What do you think in that area?
You know, honestly, the thing that's blown my mind about it is, you know, how pre-staged this whole, like, they're just anticipating in advance that there's going to be some kind of turmoil around how long it's taking to get a result. Like, where's that coming from? I mean, they're acting like that's what people are for sure going to freak out about, when it almost seems like they're saying, prepare to freak out about this. It's like they're staging the turmoil that they want people to create.
Yeah,
that's the thing that's weird to me about it, because there's so many other things to get. Like,
yeah, well, what's weird to me, it's pretty obvious they're doing that. It's weird that nobody's really just, you know, it's so ridiculous, and maybe people are just withholding their outrage until until it happens. Yeah. I don't know.
It could be, or like Zuckerberg could be spending too much time with his robot butler or whatever. I don't know, but like. You know, it seems a little staged, and you know, sorry for sounding like conspiracy theorists, I guess, but
no, I think it's obvious it's staged. It's all staged. I think they're trying to push us to a civil war. You know, it just depends on. I don't know how it'll break down. You know, it's like the geography is going to be really crazy when it happens. You know, it's going to be city states.
And, you know, who's to say we're not already in it, right? Like if the new battle is digital.
Yeah, do you remember? Did you ever study like Bloody Kansas? Any of that stuff? I mean, I grew up in Kansas.
I'm from Kansas, so.
Are you? See, I didn't know that. All right.
Yep, it's in Overland Park right now, actually. So.
Really? All right. So I was born in Wichita, but grew up in Dodge City. Lived in Kansas City for a long time.
You are really close to me. That's weird. I grew up in Waukene, Kansas.
Wow.
I was actually also born in Wichita. That's really strange.
What hospital? What hospital in Wichita?
Oh, Wesley.
Okay, that's St. Joe. All right. I met somebody who was born the day after me at the same hospital in the same 2 or 3 years ago. Anyway, crazy. Anyway, okay.
So with that being said, do you guys eat sushi from being from KC?
Oh yeah, love it.
So let's talk some sushi here, guys.
Not so much that
going on the last few days on Twitter. Oh my God, it's just like all blowing up here. So Greg, do you own any sushi? Did you?
I did not. I take a relatively cautious approach to the assets I play around with. I mean, first off, my background is in law, so I didn't come at this from a place of having a whole lot of finance experience. Other than my experience with, you know, like understanding the regulatory side of it. And yeah, if I don't understand why a thing is valuable, I don't buy it.
What do you think of CZ listing sushi within, a few days after it's
pretty, you know, I think there's been a trend towards, you know, and I love, don't get me wrong, I love DeFi and I love all this innovation, right? Like this stuff is amazing and it needs to happen. But I also think people are being a little bit reckless with, you know, not just the risks they're taking, but the way they're communicating that risk. You know, it sends a bad signal to everybody playing in this space when, you know, something like this, you know, gets promoted and gets boosted and people start using it, and then all of a sudden it fails for whatever reason. You know, we are already in an ecosystem that is not popular with people who like to make the case for centralized governance over these things. You know, like we're basically giving the powerful excuses to hold on to their power by doing this kind of stuff. And I think it's you know, it's not just irresponsible, but it's reckless with regard to the whole industry.
Absolutely. I mean, it does not shed good light on the whole industry as a whole in crypto, and especially when I think Blake might have this show, but there's actually a form for the founder to fill out, and they didn't even do a background check. Even CZ himself said it. So we didn't research before we posted, and blatantly says that this is part of our process, that we kind of do some vetting before we list a coin or token, and they didn't do that. So it's the whole thing leaves a real bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. It's a real shame that a lot of people got wrecked by that.
Well, it's like, how many times are we going to have to repeat the lesson, right? Like, how many times are people going to have to? How many times do we have left before nobody trusts us at all? To even try it.
That's why it's like it's all market, and people are going to lose money, and people, they over speculation, all the normal things that happen. But I think that's the reason too. It's good to call it out, because it needs to be a little bit of pain, a little bit painful to people, and at the same time, like even what you mentioned, I mean, communications. I'm sure that Binance was trying to do, I hope, was trying to do best due diligence, and maybe they made an exception or something else. They should own up, though. They should say, well, we shouldn't have done this, but we did, and whatever else. Or yes, we do know who it is, and being it is we're located, and where is Binance located? I don't know. That they would report it, or if it was fraudulent, maybe it isn't fraudulent. Whatever. I was
right.
When Ethereum Classic split because of the DAO stuff, I was all for it. It's like, look, I put money into DAO and I lost it, and I thought it was actually brilliant, because it was a risk, and it was a measured risk. I didn't lose $1 million or anything, but
Right.
When it split, it's just it's a very interesting thing in crypto. It's actually a beautiful thing that you have Ethereum and Ethereum Classic still. I think it's awesome.
Agreed.
But okay, so next up, Ethereum gas fees, and we've gone over this a couple of weeks. They've actually died down quite a bit. They're still more than they were. I've not sent anything for a few days, but last I sent, they were. I think I was pretty much hitting $17. I think most I spent was 30 maybe. So I probably got a little lucky. I had more than anything failed transactions, where I would send stuff and they would just get bogged down, and I would have to go and spend more money to reset it to basically say, okay, blow that one away. Here's a new one. But
they've been really crazy. I mean, and in part that's a sign of how much people are using it, which is good. But then there's also this sort of weird strategies that people use to either snipe other trades, or whatever they're doing to to get the best deals on their yield farming operations or whatever, right? Those right now I think incentivize people to sort of spam the blockchain a bit. And there are some things I think we can all do to get this resolved, but they really need to happen at the protocol level. There needs to be some discussion over how we make this come down. Different services too can probably play a part. Like I was looking at Compound the other day, and actually a good friend of mine tweeted something out about how they had said that you can get your Compound automatically rewarded to your account after a certain amount of time passed, but there isn't a whole lot of detail around it. They don't really do that. You have to actually spend some of your own ETH to claim your Compound. And they could have done some kind of automated thing. And I guess my friend was trying to push to get that onto a vote with the protocol, which, I mean, little things like that can help, but like we also need to disincentivize strategies that make people spam the blockchain when they don't have to.
Yeah. And it's like we have some ideas around scaling of Ethereum itself, but we'll never be asked. So I'll wait until they ask me. But because we've done it on our own, but for a different purpose. We're focused more on real world businesses leveraging Ethereum and Bitcoin and every other chain, right? But I know it's a much different problem to do what the Ethereum team is doing and trying to scale that. And you know,
Yeah.
I'm hopeful that they are victorious. I hope that they, you know, that they really, really solve it and everything else. But in the
Me
off
too.
chance they don't, we
Fingers
have some, you know, we have some ideas that we, you know, at least maybe we could build something alongside and make it work too. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Well,
It's all open source to the extreme, so it's beautiful.
Right. Well, I mean, and that's, you know, that's part of the beauty of it, right? Like, if a solution isn't working like it promises, then people can come in and fork it and build their own thing, try different stuff, right?
Yeah.
That's there. And personally, I'd like to hear what your guys' ideas are because, you know, being kind of an eternal skeptic, I'm not entirely certain everything that you know that's being done with ETH 2.0 is for the purpose of scaling, or if it's really a balance of interests, and you know maybe there's some ideas out there that really should be heard. So
yeah. Well, and I'll tell you, everything, it's software, right? So everything's solvable depending upon the frame of reference. So you, depending on how you frame the problem, you know, and you have to work in what are the requirements, what are the goals, what are the things that we can't have happen, and for any set of that you can solve it, right? And so it wouldn't be precisely what Ethereum or the team would ever look at, right? But it is something that I do know, because you know, I'm a software guy. I know that it would work. It would scale. And the funniest thing to me, frankly, and I hadn't really thought about this until we just started talking about this now, we put out that Reddit scaling proposal, right? And we kind of took a look. We're kind of the outsiders. You know, we're not purely Ethereum, but we came in and said, look, you know, we can do some things for scaling the tokens, but we don't think that's your real problem because, you know, you have what would be considered a traditional system with Reddit. You know, it's people voting on a centralized database, and yet you're wanting to tokenize the scoring of that, you know, karma or whatever you want to call the points. And frankly, if they don't have any provenance, the points aren't really that valuable because any one of those subreddits could potentially cheat and say, hey, you know, there's even a stipulation in the way they talk about it that the owners of the subreddit can go through and kind of finagle the numbers and make sure it's like, wait a minute, so they're going to cut out people they don't like and say, well, this person, even though they provide a lot of good content, doesn't get the points. It's going to be bad. And so we had said, we think we can solve by putting your entire system, the 33 billion, well, there's like 32 point something billion votes, and then the balance of 33 billion transactions, the rest are posts and replies, right? And we said, we can put that on chain first. Then we can tokenize the rest, and we can either do it, you know, in these various ways. We gave some. But the funniest thing to me, sorry, it's a long time getting to this point.
Oh, no, go ahead.
The funniest thing to me is that, and I wasn't an insider at the time. You know, I followed quite a bit Bitcoin and everything else, but the fact that Vitalik left Bitcoin because, you know, he was trying to get ideas in place. He was trying to build stuff, and it was very toxic. And so he's like, well, screw you guys. I'm going to go over and do this, right? And, you know, now Ethereum, frankly, you know, people talk about the flippening, but they only considered Ethereum itself and Bitcoin. They didn't consider the entire ecosystem, that Ethereum is actually more valuable when you consider all of the tokens easily than Bitcoin, which is really interesting thing, because that's the true, you know, killer app of Ethereum, at least so far, is tokens. And so you think about that, and yet, you know, we're trying to offer something up into, you know, the Ethereum, and man, if you read the it's crazy. It's the most ridiculous setup. It's Reddit, and Reddit is
already ridiculous.
Yeah, it's a burning trash bin anyway. But it's, you know, it's like when you go in, and we're not going to win anyway, so I'm not really, you know, I'm not trying to sell them on anything. But one way or another, it is, you know, it's funny because you know, it's like we're. Honestly, I think we wrote up a 20-something page proposal for it and said, you know, we think this could work. And it's Reddit, it's not Ethereum, but it's like, man, the Ethereum community really was not too receptive. Some of them were very honest, right? But
yeah,
you know,
I mean, there are a lot of opinionated people in you know, all of blockchain, but Ethereum has some folks who, I mean, and you can definitely understand why too, because these folks have dedicated so much time and so much effort into you know, hammering home this vision. And you know, in a world where governance is by consensus, right? Allegedly, like, I mean, I don't know what the inside of the room where all of the folks at Ethereum Foundation hang out, right? But I imagine it's a lot like a free for all to a certain degree, because a good friend of mine sent me this paper that was something along the lines of the tyranny of orderlessness or structurelessness. It's an old paper. When you don't have a formal structure and it's just, everybody can, sort of speak into the whirlwind and out comes some kind of decision, what is really happening there isn't that it's pure anarchy organizing itself into a consensus and then into a decision. It's just an unstated governance structure that's hiding underneath all of it.
Yeah.
And probably the people who are participating in making the actual decisions don't even know they're the ones who are controlling it.
Yeah, that's true.
But at the same time, like, especially coming from, places where software doesn't usually come from, Kansas City, that's where my whole team's located.
Nice.
There's definitely an outsider element to, to breaking into those conversations, to having people take you seriously.
Yeah,
So,
that's great.
For sure. And, I personally love all ideas because, the best way to have a good one is to have a lot of them. But
yes. Yeah. Yeah. And I understand too, they're probably trolled like crazy from other tribes, so raiding parties and everything. So,
yep.
Okay. Next topic. So COVID tracing apps and blockchain. Yeah, we put one out with a partnership out of Florida, Medic Health. There's information up there, and the reason we did that is they approached us, very interesting topic, and the fact that we really wanted to show how you could do this without tracing people, right? Because it's
right.
You have HIPAA, you have all these, let alone it's privacy and health data. I don't want to be holding that from anyone. And so that was a lot of what we did. And yet it was really interesting. We actually had a reasonably significant delay getting into the app stores because Google and Apple were very much wanting to make sure that people were following, which was good. So we basically were able to show them, okay, we're HIPAA compliant. Here's who has access to the data, who doesn't, and so on. And we finally got through, but it was for touch and go for a while because we weren't sure if they were going to let us, because we weren't using their API, which literally would be tracing people with some controls, right? So
yeah,
what do you think about all of that?
Well, I think there, and it sounds like you guys did it the right way. But I think there are some real pitfalls hidden in this. Like, if we design this system that enables contact tracing and it helps people, not get sick, or helps public health authorities figure out how to solve these problems better in the future or today, right? That's a good thing. But, what are we giving up? And also, what kind of machinery are we creating, right? Like, could we envision them changing the names of some fields, and all of a sudden this is the former traffic offender tracing utility? And so what kind of data do we want to even have be traceable, and how personalized do we want to be able to allow this to get? Those of us in tech have a responsibility to build things that people can't use irresponsibly. I think, so like, doing it right is great. And, the fact that Apple and Google were, inquiring into if you were doing it the right way in terms of HIPAA is good. But like, I kind of wonder if maybe they haven't already created kind of a monster with their own toolkit, because, right now we're using it for COVID-19, but who knows what the next public health crisis they're going to consider contact tracing be worthy of? Is it going to be bike helmets? I mean, we don't know. Like, how personal do we want this to get?
Yeah,
So
and
I
even
think
if they're separating it, it's that they're still they can triangulate, or whoever has access to the data could triangulate this along with the they're already tracking phones for traffic data. They're already doing a lot of they're already tracking everywhere you go anyway. So that's where it gets a little scary, right? But okay.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a place where blockchain can make a difference, because you can take these sort of federated models and let people participate how they want to and how they feel comfortable. Like, I think the key is just informed consent for people. They need to know what they're getting into for the benefit they're getting out.
Yep.
Okay, cryptocurrencies, Greg, and money laundering. The general public, I guess you hear a lot of this, that it's used for money laundering, and the data doesn't really show that at all. Fiat's using way more than cryptocurrency. So, do you think this this stigma is going to be a long-lasting thing with crypto, or eventually it will go away? Or what are your thoughts on the money laundering in crypto?
Yeah, this strikes me as one of those ones that people will probably see right through pretty fast, because it's a pretty easy counter argument. Like, yeah, you can accuse it of that, but you can also very easily make a ridiculous claim like 100% of children raised on milk are also populating the prison system, right? Like, you can say stuff like, 100% of bank robberies use internal combustion engine cars as getaway vehicles. Like, it's stating the obvious. Of course, people are going to use, money or valuable assets to launder money. Like, it's just how humans behave. And unless you can eliminate money laundering as a thing that people need to do, it's going to happen, right? Like, it's just not that. It never struck me as that good of an argument against cryptocurrency, because anybody can sell a stupid piece of art on eBay and use PayPal for that or whatever. You have to know how to set up a cryptocurrency account before you can use crypto to launder money, and even then, you can still hose yourself by not knowing how to keep it private.
Yes,
right. It's still traceable, right? So it's like it'd be the stupidest place to do that. In fact, we had back when we started doing stuff way early with Bitcoin, trying to figure out how to use it and stuff, and how to build stuff with it. And FBI had a report that came out, I think it was around 2012, somewhere around there. And it was really funny because when you read through it, all of the negatives, you could do a find replace for cash or Bitcoin to cash, and it would have been the exact same arguments. They were basically making the argument. In fact, it would be harder to get away with it with Bitcoin than with cash, right? Cash is, they have to know in advance that they want to trace it, and then get all the market bills or do whatever else they, all those other ways that they can do stuff. But with Bitcoin, it's like you could do it after the fact. You can go through and say, oh, wait, where'd this come from? And trace it back and, tie all the parties together. And, so it's really interesting. It's kind of it's almost classic FUD, actually. That we
and on the other side of this, I think there's actually a deadly spin to this. Like, people have to hold this narrative accountable and call it out for what it is, because this all of a sudden turns into a case for centralized Fedcoin, where everybody has a US approved wallet, and nothing happens with a US denominated currency without them knowing. That's a different world. We're one law away from abolishing paper cash at that point, and then we live in a state where the economy is entirely controlled. And that, that needs to be called out whenever anybody makes one of these arguments. Like, what are you proposing in the alternative? The abolishing of cash, making it illegal to use a cryptocurrency that isn't Fed sponsored. Like, what would you like to do here? We definitely don't want to see that world. I think most people would agree that would be a little bit heavy-handed, even for people who really like that kind of law and order approach to things.
That's very true. Very true. And speaking of privacy, Monero So someone's claiming that it's that they can trace it, which I've never looked into the depths of the tech on Monero, but I have bought some in the past. I don't remember if I still hold it or not, right? But it's a very cool tech. I don't know. What do you think of this? I mean, this is some fitting in the same line, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, there's no such thing as unhackable tech, right? Like, you can't put security in place that can't be breached. It's just a thing that's a game of cat and mouse eternally between people who want to break into stuff and people who want to keep you out. And privacy is the same way. It's a race to the top in terms of more security or more privacy rather versus people who figure out how to invade it getting in, right? It's just another part of that engineering race for people who are trying to build a thing to be a certain way and people who don't like it that way.
Yeah.
And that's you look at, I guess every year they release a new iPhone, right? New iOS, all that comes out. There's always some huge fallout when Gray Key or one of these evil empire hacking companies comes in and says, "Oh, well, now we can't break these phones." Law enforcement has a panic, and then like maybe Tim Cook faces off with the FBI on Twitter or whatever, and then 5 weeks later it's no problem because Craig Key figured out how to break the new model. Like it's just going to be a race. And
well, you remember too the mass shooting that happened in California. I can't remember if it was Santa Bernardino or Santa Barbara. I can't remember, but there was at a Christmas party. There was a shooting, and they went for weeks at least, where the FBI was trying to say we need access. And Apple was saying, nope, we do not do that. We are pure. We are pure. We are pure. Only to find out 2 years later that no, the feds already had access. They already had backdoor, obvious anyway.
Oh, yeah.
And somehow they played it all out. They played it out in public. It's like, no, we are the most secure. Did Apple pay the U.S. government to do that? How does that work?
I don't even know. I do remember reading that they had plans to end-to-end encrypt iCloud and they didn't do it, something like that. Just because the FBI started to panic when they said, "Oh, you mean we can't also download their backups from iCloud that you can give us?" Like, there's a lot of security theater and a lot of privacy theater, I think. Yeah. And I think what's really happening in the background is something that, we probably would need another Edward Snowden if we really wanted to know the details of, because God knows they spend a lot of money on it. So you have to imagine that they can get the kind of help they need and do the kinds of nefarious things we all wish they couldn't.
It is a better world than it was, when I grew up, at least, because you do have Assange, you do have Snowden, you do have Benny, you do have these people, and you do have this tech that you can actually counter some of that, right? So it's interesting, very interesting. Next, prediction markets for the elections. This article says they're not ready. I've not looked enough into it. What do you think about prediction markets? I mean, notably Augur. There used to be InTrade, right? I followed InTrade a lot, and that was really interesting for political insight. But the prediction markets are, and I was very hopeful for Augur, but I've not had time to follow up, to pay attention. There's too much crazy stuff going on all the time. What are your thoughts?
Prediction markets are brilliant, right? They can tell us a lot of amazing stuff, and the more participants you can get, the more kinds of amazing things they can predict for us, right? Like they are, in principle, a powerful tool for people to understand the state of the world. And the question is, can they be gamed in the same way that people game markets? If we start paying too much attention to prediction markets, right? Are there people who are incentivized to game them in a way that, shapes the opinion with the prediction as opposed to vice versa? I think that's where the devil in the details comes out. I haven't personally had a chance to play with Augur because I haven't had time to set up a VPN, and go through the rigmarole of breaking the fact that they locked the US out. But
how did you know that? Did they really?
I haven't seen how it all works yet, but I hope that we get to see some results out of it. I just hope that people don't start using the prediction markets as a way to form their opinions.
Yeah, well, and even with that though, it should be a measurable thing that if a campaign wanted to invest money to make people think that they were ahead or behind, for that matter, maybe they'd want to make people think they're behind. I don't know. That it would be at least measurable. That at least a portion of the full amount in there would be, from potentially the campaign itself. And I remember when I first I bought stuff in their initial sale, right? And the reason I did is because I had listened to, and I never listened to podcasts, but I'm driving into Disney, right? And I'm listening to this podcast, and I believe it was the founder, but either way, I can't even remember. The notion that you could have a plugin, it was mentioned, you could have a plugin on a site that could basically let me as a person see something that I thought was outlandish that was written, basically highlight it, send over and set up an issue on it and say, I'm betting this much, whatever, that's BS. And the beauty then is anybody else can then bet on it too. It's like, oh yeah, that is BS, right? Or it's like, no, you're wrong, Joe. You don't understand, and bet against me. But the beauty then is for the casual reader, and this is one of the same things that we try to do in a lot of different use cases, where you have the crypto people that are doing this stuff, that are in the market, and if it's an information market, like say with DEN, we have a lot of what we're doing around DEN is based upon people evaluating stuff. But the crazy thing is, in the end, the main goal of all of that market is so that the user doesn't give a shit about making money on that issue. We'll have a potentially better insight into whether this article is well researched, right? It's interesting. Right. So really cool stuff. Yeah. That's why I bought it. And then it went up, and somebody told me to sell it. I sold it. I don't even remember what, but either way, very cool stuff. Yeah. So,
and that's always the hope, right? Like these kinds of markets can leverage the power of marketplaces to tell us things that are true.
Yes.
I think the key there is going to be transparency, right? Like, because if you get things a little bit too shadowy, then all of a sudden short and long positions just look like volume.
Yes.
And,
yeah.
I mean, if you allow, for instance, could you imagine a prediction market where instead of siding with the nays, you could short the long on yes. Yeah. And if that weren't public, then it starts to look like yes is winning, and all that is a whole bunch of people who want to make a windfall when no actually ends up being true.
Wow.
So that's fun. And you could probably, I can in my mind picture some ridiculous smart contract architecture that could make it possible to subversively short one side of a prediction market.
Yeah. Man, it's weird because they have to model it so it's balanced, and so that as many of the edge cases can be accounted for, and you can't attack from this way or that way, it's even harder because a lot of what you write in Ethereum is very final, right? It's not absolutely final, but it is it's harder to move culturally and technically. So it's a really interesting thing. Well,
I also see like a huge potential advantage there, right? Like if you're an opinion maker and your opinion is in favor of or against a certain thing, like show us your money then. Let's see your position in the prediction market, and let's see how much you really believe in it.
Yeah,
because I believe somebody who had money on Yay and was opining in favor of it before I believed somebody who wasn't in it at all.
Yes, agree. You put more money down. And usually it's because and ideally, the market should be there to attract, to monetize people's info, right? It's like, you have something that none of us know. Come over here and make money on it. That's the main point of it. And even to the people who would talk about insider trading, right? That there's a lot. If you're libertarian, you know that there's a lot written on the fact that insider trading is actually really good because it provides the earliest possible signals to everyone else about where this stock is going, right? And when you prevent insider trading, it keeps those signals from coming. So it's more like an earthquake that it's just going to blow when it does. And that's an interesting thing to me. So I was always like, I wonder if how Augur project, and maybe they have some level of moderation, but how do they avoid people betting on stocks or things that would be illegal to do, right? I don't know.
Question.
Yeah, I would love it. Everything was open, Yeah. Cool. Okay, all right. So that was everything. So Greg, where can people follow you? What's going on? What should we look for in the coming months?
Cool. Yeah. We've got, so in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be, so Rivet actually, our product, which you can check out at rivet.cloud, is our Ethereum and Ethereum Classic Gateway. And we're pretty soon to go live with crypto payments, and at the same time, let people, do a Web3 based sign-in so that, we've already had a strong focus on privacy. Like, we only take email addresses for signups. And pretty soon you won't even need to give us that, which is going to be pretty cool.
Nice.
And along with that, we can be found at openrelay.xyz, and that's more for, like, if you want to reach out to us for some kind of, like, we're always interested in hearing people's ideas, and we're experts in infrastructure and in operationalizing that infrastructure, DevOps. Nice. So if people need that kind of expertise and there's not something we are openly selling that that we can't help you with, we'll definitely take a listen. We're always ear to the ground for great ideas. And then on Twitter, you can follow Rivet, which is at Rivet with underscores in between all the letters, because somebody had Rivet with no underscores already.
Of course.
And then Open Relay is open_relay. And then you can find me at Design Heretic. Which is a string of words I threw together a few years ago that I have grown attached to. So,
excellent, beautiful. All right, excellent. Okay, so everybody, like, comment, subscribe, all the normal things. Who won? Who got the shirt? If anybody can tell me who got the shirt, and watch again next Tuesday. Thanks a bunch, Greg. Awesome.
Yeah, happy to come on, and it was really great talking to you guys. Good to get you,
Greg. Thank you.
Bye.
Yep.
Take care. Goodbye.
Rocco's got a lawnmower going, I think, out there.